Alright, welcome back to DecryptedTech. Today we're going to take a look at Asus's P8Z77-V Deluxe, and in particular we're actually going to take a look at the AISuite tools that come on it, come with the board. These are going to be very similar to what we saw on the Dash V, and also similar to what you're going to see on other boards, including the Gene, and really anything else. There's going to be differences in colors. You're going to see maybe one or two added features that'll be with it. But for the most part, you're going to have the same exact functionality. Of course, you have your auto tuning, which we showed you in our review. If you click on the link below, you'll see what we were able to get to. Now, the overclock that you see here, which is going to bounce up and down as we open things, of course, due to this speed step that's in there, as well as some of the thermal envelope that's going to control this. It pushes at 4.8 gigahertz. That's our manual overclock. That's pretty much the fastest, stable speed that's going to keep us inside the temperature range that we want to be. But if you look here, you see you have your manual mode for turbo EVO, and you also have an automatic one. You have fast, which is going to give you just a really quick overclock, probably in the 4.2 to 4.3 gigahertz range, and then you have extreme, which is going to be that maximum that they can push into. It's going to combine the best voltages, best features, and best functionality, as well as stability. It's going to walk through several different steps before it gives you your final clock speed. So for ours, when we did our auto tuning, we actually used the extreme. And so that gave you the clock speed that you'll see in those pictures that we link below. Moving on, we'll take a look at the tools. All you have to do is click on the tool button here, and you see you have quite a few listed here, including SSD caching, which we'll talk about in a little bit. You have your network eye control, your USB 3.0 boost, USB Charge Plus, the AI charger, Wi-Fi Engine, Wi-Fi Go, sensor recorder, Probe 2, Fan Xpert 2, the EPU, and DigiPlus power control. So we'll kick things off in the overclocking tool, which is one of our favorites. It has a couple of things that it lacks, but we've also found that with those features that it apparently lacks, what you're actually getting is a little bit more performance. One of the things that we've always wanted to see here is the ability to change the RAM divider. However, if we change the RAM divider, it's going to require a reboot. So what Asus has done is put in the features into this overclocking utility that are going to leave you in Windows if you alter them. It's going to be things like your B clock frequency, your voltages, your DDR voltage, so it's going to allow you to change the memory voltage, as well as some advanced voltage options that are down here. All right, you also have your GPU boost, which you will only see this screen if you're running off of the GMA 4000 or whatever iGPU that's built into your Intel Ivy Bridge or Sandy Bridge processor. Other than that, you won't see this screen. It'll actually be grayed out, so you won't be able to click on it. Of course, we talked about the CPU ratio, which will allow you to adjust per core, adjust for 4 cores, 3 cores, or of course 2 cores. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit here so you can get a clearer shot of that. So you see here we could actually change our multiplier for just these 2 cores, just for cores 0 and 1. They list them as 1 and 2 here, but to the computer it's actually 0 and 1 because everything starts at 0. And of course you can click on your OS defaults there. One of the things, we'll take a look at this area over here. You can actually collapse that or expand it. And then of course you can change your monitor. For right now we're looking at CPU frequency, but we can also quickly change it to the sensor, which will show you what we've got going on, our CPU temperatures, the voltages that we have pushed through, and then just move back and forth to this different sensors. Alright, we'll take a look at our next tool here, which is our DigiPlus Smart Power, our power controls. These are great, we love them. Again, we talked to you about this before. You can do OC now, which is going to set up that power regulation in the best envelope to give you the best options for overclocking. It's going to change things like your default current limits. All of those are going to change in the BIOS. They'll be set up so that even when you reboot, they'll be there. That's going to give you your best options very quickly for overclocking the board. Again, within certain guidelines from Asus, so that you don't damage the board. You also have your Smart Power, which is going to allow you to set a 45 watt envelope or 35 watt envelope to actually reduce the amount of power this draws. It's a great feature, when one we've taken advantage of and peeked at a little bit. Now here's your actual power controls. When you click on that Smart Digi, these are the options that it's actually going to set. So you see here our CPU current capability is set to 140%. We clicked on that OC now and it actually set that up for us. Our load line calibration is set to ultra high. iGPU, we really don't mess with that too much because we're not into overclocking the iGPU just yet. CPU phase control we have set for extreme. It understands that we're going to be overclocking, so it's actually going to put that in the best state for overclocking. As you can see here, we get more performance, less efficiency. And of course you have your CPU voltage. Do we want to have spread spectrum? We've got that turned off right now, but we can actually change the frequency of the voltage regulation module, which is nice. It can give you a little bit cleaner or more stable power as it moves through the board. Of course, you have another page here, which is going to give you your thermal controls as well as your CPU power response control. It's going to provide more precise power for things like turbo mode or when you're pushing those upper temperatures. So right now our duty cycle is of course set to T-probe, and extreme is going to give us the best current balance. We found that we haven't yet needed to go to extreme, but we're also not pushing the processor, again, because of the limitations of some of the cooling that we have here. If we were to move into something like phase change cooling or even more advanced water cooling, we might push this to extreme just to get the best current going into the CPU so we can push those numbers higher. Alright, moving out, Asus also gives you options to change your RAM settings. So you can do your current capability here, your power thermal controls, your voltage frequencies, all of that, and you can actually set up the phase control for optimized or extreme. We tend to leave these modules at 1600 megahertz. They're not very good above that. We do have some 2400 megahertz RAM that we're going to be bringing in here very soon from Kingston. It's another their HyperX series, and we'll be using that moving forward, so we'll be able to check some of these additional RAM functions so we can push these things a little bit higher and maybe a little bit farther. And that'll give us a better indication of how these Asus's motherboards with their new trace layout are going to handle those higher speeds. Alright, so we've now moved through all of those, and we'll back this back out and we'll take a look at the next one, which is the EPU. This is their energy processing unit. Asus came under a little bit of fire from people saying that it's not truly a hardware energy processing, but it's actually hardware software. Well, Asus has countered that. Now the EPU actually shows up in their BIOS, which we'll show you a little bit later. And it also, you do have this software function. You can set these to auto, and you can see it'll overlay and show you what you're going to get in this this pentagram here. Based on, tranquility is going to be noise, convenience, energy save, reliability, and performance. So right now we have reliability and performance are going to be our leanings when we're running this high performance. Max power saving, you're going to energy saving, auto. A lot of these are not actually going to get you into that, tranquility, which is the lower fan noises, things like that. Now you can add different pieces to this. So you can actually add VGA. Of course, we don't have a VGA video card plugged in, so if we had, let's say, Asus's HD5870 or one of those cards that would allow this to control that, you can actually set this up to be controlled here. So right now, because we're overclocking, we have no option for the CPU, we don't have any options for the HDD. We're using SSDs right now, so there's no motor to power down to reduce power in that, so you're not going to see that when you're running an SSD. If you were to drop in, let's say, a 3 or 4 terabyte drive in here that has a motor, it's the traditional magnetic media, then you're going to see that where it's going to give you that option to control and slow down or to actually turn off the motors. With disk drives, we don't actually recommend that, but it's an option for you there if that's something that you want to do. Right now it'll show you what your actual CPU power is, so we're pulling 7.84 watts. That'll adjust as we of course move the mouse around or actually highlight or click on things. Moving down to the next one, we've talked to you before about Fan Xpert 2 and its auto testing functions. We'll actually go and it will cycle every fan that you have attached. If we were to plug in 2 or 3 more 120 or 180 millimeter fans here, it would check each one for its maximum as well as its minimum RPMs. And it's going to set up 3 profiles that are going to allow you to basically choose a silent, a normal, or a turbo mode, which is going to be your fans all on, or you can actually turn all of them up to full speed. For your CPU cooling, if you're using an air cooler with fans, that's great. You can go ahead and leave that involved. We'll put that inside those profiles. If you're using a self-contained water cooling unit, like any of the Corsair, Cooler Master, or even Thermaltake's new Water 2.0, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set those fan headers, those 4-pin power PWM fan headers, turn any fan controls off. You want the motor and the pump as well as those fans running at their maximum speed so you get the most efficient cooling. We've seen where if you allow the pump to be controlled by the PWM systems on the boards, it can actually affect pump life as well as its performance. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and click on OK here. It's going to read through some things and we'll fast forward through this for you. Alright, we're back. You can see it's 100%. And like I said, it's going through its fan tuning. You can do fan position, so we'll do next. It's actually going to ask us what each fan is, and you can change the name. You can't change the name for the CPU fan, but you can change the name for any other fan so you know exactly where it's at. And you can actually search for it, so it will turn the other fans off and turn that one up to high speed so you can actually locate it in your case. Let's say your chassis fan number 1 is actually your back fan above the motherboard. You can call it that, you can call it rear upper fan, you can call it blowhole, whatever you want. So it gives you a better indication of where these fans are and you know what they're doing. Now again, since we've gone through the auto tuning, you can see here we have our silent mode, we have our standard, and we have our turbo, and then we can do full speed, which is going to turn everything on full speed. So moving on, we'll move to Probe 2. Probe 2 has actually been in Asus motherboards for a very long time. We actually uncovered an older version of it on one of our home theater PCs that we run, and it was kind of interesting to see the differences between then and now with the small icons that were over on the corners. But this is the new version. You can see you can set your different thresholds for fan speed, for preferences, your alert logs. You can take a look at everything. You see here where it's abnormal. It's 71C voltages. You know, and if you want to set your temperature threshold, like right now we have the threshold set at 70. If we set that to 81, it's not going to give us any kind of alerts or anything until we hit there, and then you just hit apply, and it'll take care of that. And it'll show you what your current value is as well. Alright, so moving on past Probe 2, we'll go into Sensor Recorder. Sensor Recorder is actually one of my new favorite tools that I like to use on Asus motherboards, simply because it's going to give me an at-a-glance view of what's going on. I can see voltage fluctuations, I can see everything here. I can actually zoom in, zoom out, whatever I need to do. I can look at temperature settings here, and fan speed, and I can also do a history record. I can set this up to record for 6 hours, for 1 hour. I can do my polling interval down to 5 seconds, voltage, temperature, fan speed. I can set it up to whatever I want. And as soon as I hit record, it's actually going to record these items. If I want to remove the motherboard and just see the CPU, if I want to just see the motherboard, I can do any of that. I can set up my fan speeds, and I can choose any fans I want to monitor. If I want to see if I've got a fan that might be going out or might be having some issues, I can do that. Under here you can also again choose voltage, so you can see different voltage fluctuations for anything. For your 5 volt, which is going to be mostly your drive motor strengths, your 12 volt, your 3.3 volt, your V-core, all of that's going to come into play. And it's a really nice tool if you want to do some historical monitoring. Let's say you want to run something overnight and you want to see how your board performs with that. This gives you the option to do that. Alright, moving on to the Wi-Fi Go. We touched on this briefly with the -V, and we're going to take a look at it again with the -V Deluxe. For the Wi-Fi Go, you have your DLNA Media Hub. We do not have a DLNA enabled player in the lab at the moment. However, what this will allow you to do is it will allow you to take any content that's on this board here, and will actually allow you to stream it directly to that, and you can control it using a remote device like an Android phone or even an iPhone or an iPad. So you could sit on your couch, connect to this computer here through the media. Now of course you have to turn on media streaming, which is fine. It's pretty simple, and then of course you set up whatever you want. Your remote connections are allowed, so okay. So you can set, okay, it's allowed. So there we go. We'll go ahead and exit out of this tool and then come back. So anyway, it will find any media that's on here, and it will actually allow you to stream it using a third-party tablet or phone onto something like an Asus OPlay or another DLNA-enabled streaming media device. You can send it directly to it, which will allow you to play it on your computer, and you can actually use a remote control of your phone or your tablet to control it. It's kind of a neat feature, and it's one that Asus is definitely pushing. You can also do remote desktop. You can control things directly across here, so you can choose the video codec you want to use. It's going to choose whatever's best for your performance. So let's say you have a tablet. You can download the Wi-Fi Go utility out of the Android Play Store, or you can get it off of iTunes, and it will allow you to control this computer through your tablet, which is an improvement on some of the other ones that they had where like they were using the one that was on the Transformer Prime. That was nice, but it tended to be a little bit intrusive on the system, and it ran all the time, so we didn't necessarily like that one. Alright, so what we're going to show you here is we've shown you how to connect, so we're going to show you the remote desktop function here. So we'll go ahead and push through. We've shown you a few of these things, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up Cinebench here. So you can see that opens up. Now we can actually move around, and we can scroll to here, and we can hit our go ahead and start up our benchmark. So you can see with just a touch of the phone, we're actually controlling this from here, and it's going to show us everything that's going on the phone as well. So this is a nice improvement over the built-in. Oh, we got an error there, so we'll go ahead and kill that. This is kind of a nice improvement over the traditional Microsoft one, in that will actually send bit by bit exactly what's going on the screen. So you can see you can set things up here. We can go ahead and open up different applications. We can even shut down the computer if we wanted to, just by clicking on, tapping on the phone here. And of course you can zoom in as much as you want to, or you can have the whole thing full screen on the actual platform here. And you have a keyboard you can pop up when you want to use, or when you want to actually do anything with the, if you wanted to type something here. So that covers the remote control there. The keyboard and mouse, we have used that in the past, but for whatever reason it's not deciding to work for us today. It's just the mouse is running and we get about a few things of text going on. We do have some other wireless devices that we're testing in the lab, so that it's very possible that it's interfering with that. So again, you can set up a DLNA media hub here, which will allow you to stream content that's on this system or on your system to a media hub that you've actually got plugged into your TV, and you can control it with your tablet. You can actually do remote desktop from a tablet. This includes an iPad of your system. You can use your tablet like a remote keyboard or a mouse pad. It's kind of an interesting thing to do, not too functional. You can also do smart motion control, which will allow you to actually use your phone or your tablet like a remote control for certain types of games. It'd be great for a gaming one. You can actually do proximity. You have a camera that you can run directly from your device. You can record from there. So you can see that you have quite a bit going on, and you can actually do wireless file transfers. This is nice in that it is a little bit more secure than Bluetooth, even the newer versions of Bluetooth. So that covers everything we've got in the Wi-Fi Go, and we'll take a look at Wi-Fi Engine now. Wi-Fi Engine is going to allow you to set this up as a client mode, so from here we can connect to another access point, or we can actually set this up as an access point, and it will allow us to actually use this as a wireless router. So other computers can connect into this and use our wired internet connection, or even the connection that we have for access to the internet, or even to the rest of the network. It's kind of a nice function. Allows you to set up a few other options in case you have other wireless systems and maybe you don't want to buy our wireless access point. Alright, moving on, we'll move to the AI charge. We've talked about this in the past. This is actually going to allow you to plug in systems or devices that require USB charging into a USB 3.0 port and get more speed in charging. It's going to put a little bit more voltage through the line, give you, according to Asus, better than plugging it into a wall outlet. We've been playing around with it before, but it's not, so far we're not seeing where it's considerably better than plugging it into a wall outlet, but it is much better than the traditional trickle charge you get from plugging it into a regular USB port. Alright, moving on, we'll go ahead and take a look at the USB charge. This is for your standard USB 2.0 ports. This is going to let you plug things in. You can do multiple devices, it's not just the iPhone. So if we were to plug in, again, our Galaxy Nexus here, we're going to get better charging, and it's going to show fast charging as an option. We'll go ahead and grab our USB cable here. So when we plug into one of these USB ports, you'll see here as we refresh, it knows that we've got an other plugged in, and we can go ahead and tell it to fast charge, or to go ahead and charge this device. So you can tell it what it wants to do. Do we want to go ahead and charge other devices? And we can say apply, and it will continue to charge our device even when we disconnect it. So that'll now allow us to charge through the standard USB ports. Last thing, or not necessarily last thing, but one additional thing we want to talk about with Asus's USB 3.0 ports is going to be their improved speed with the USB 3.0 boost. So we'll take a look at that here. We'll go ahead and plug that into our USB port. So plug this into one of the Intel slots. You see this is going to pop up. This is a Kingston HyperX 3.0. You can see that right now we have it set for turbo mode. When this is set in turbo mode, we'll go ahead and set it up for normal real quick. And we'll open up Sandra here. And we'll take a look at, we'll just do physical disk performance. So when we do the Kingston DT HyperX 3.0 64 gig key, what you're going to see is it's going to run through its performance numbers. We'll back it out here so you can see those. We'll zoom in on these numbers here. So as you can see, 251.3 megabits per second, or megabytes per second, transfer running in normal mode. If we come back over here and we click on turbo, we close Sandra back out all the way because it does not register properly if you don't turn it all the way off. So and then we'll go ahead and we'll do our physical disks again, and we'll hit the Kingston again. And if you watch here in just a second, it'll show you in those usually about a 20 to 22, somewhere around there, megabyte per second improvement in performance. So you see we're at 271.84. That's a pretty nice jump, and this is not even fully compliant with all of the modes that the USB 3.0 Boost supports. And we'll talk about some of those modes here in just a second. So again, you see you have turbo, which is what we're running in. This is sort of like a SCSI mode. But you also have another one, which is UASP. That's the fastest. Unfortunately, our device doesn't fully support that. We are working on getting one in-house so that we can show you the massive performance improvement that you get if you can run in UASP mode. This is due to Asus's use of the ASMedia USB 3.0 controller. A lot of companies are still using NEC or some of the branch-offs from NEC, and you'll also see the VIA USB 3.0 hubs that are being put in place. This will work with the ASMedia as well as the Intel. The ASMedia does get a little bit better performance, not terribly much, but it does get a little bit better performance. It's also a little bit more flexible. From what we understand, you cannot get the UASP mode out of the Intel, the one that's controlled by the PCH, but you can from the ASMedia. Alright, moving on, we'll show you the network eye control. We've shown you this before. You have your quick connection. This is just a visual QoS service, quality of service. You can basically set up profiles and say, hey, I want to have this program have a little bit more access. You got your easy profile, so we can take any of these and actually put it up in this area and schedule it, or we can give it just a general profile. And then of course you'll see this is running off of that gigabit network card. We can also look at network card 2, which is going to be the Realtek. On this board, of course, as we mentioned, you have Intel and then you also have Realtek. For right now, we're running off of the Intel network card. So we'll take a look. We'll go back here, and again, this is your user profile. You can develop profiles, but you can also set up auto ones and your quick connection. If you want to automatically connect anytime, this is for if you have point-to-point protocol over Ethernet. This is older DSL, things like that. Even some things like Big Pond, some of those still require that. And of course, we have SSD caching. It's always going to tell us that we have to terminate that. We don't have a disk drive connected. We need one traditional magnetic platter as well as one solid state drive. Right now we're working on getting a newer version of the SATA 3 drives, perhaps a 3 terabyte drive from one of our partners, and we're going to show you some additional testing with this. But what this allows you to do is you can plug in an SSD into the same controllers. This is their ASMedia controller, and then it will act as a buffer for your disk drive, which is going to allow it to have improved performance, and we'll show you that once we have all of the parts in hand. So that covers all of the performance tools. We've shown you monitoring. Update is going to give you your basic updates, Asus update, my logo, USB BIOS flashback, which this is a great feature. We actually used this when we first got the board to update it to the latest BIOS from Asus, which is the 1009 BIOS. You also have system information, which is going to show you everything you want to know. You've got your motherboard, so you can see there revision 1. Yeah, it's unusual. You have your motherboard, you have your CPU information, and of course you have your SPD. And we've talked to you guys about this before. For whatever reason it's not picking up our memory here. We've talked to you about this. The SPD is the serial presence device that's going to give you the information about your memory, the default information. Then of course you have application settings. You can tell it what you want to show, what you don't want to show. So if we want to turn any of these off because we don't want to see them all the time, we can do that. And then when you pull it up, you're not going to see all of those options. So you can really customize AISuite to show you only what you want to see and to do the things that you really want it to do. So now you'll see those other features that we turned off are actually missing. So we can turn these back on, apply. It's going to reset. Takes it a little bit. Alright, that covers almost everything. We'll look at the bar. You can see here you can do your auto hide. You can change the way it actually minimizes. And that covers everything in AISuite 2 on the Asus P8Z77-V Deluxe. We'll have some more information. Again, if you like this video, go ahead and click on like. Be sure to share it with your friends. And be sure to subscribe to our channel so you can stay up to date with the news and reviews we have for you. We'll also have another video that will be linked in the review that you can click on below that will cover the Asus UEFI BIOS as well as a couple of additional features that we found on the Asus board. So, again...